Hello, Cosmic Soul family. Ella Ivy here with Astrology, doing a quick pop on here, discussing the Mercury retrograde in Leo. And I was really tuning into the energy, especially since I've been running around doing errands, completing some tasks, doing all the retrograde things, right? Reorganizing, restructuring, re-alchemizing, resetting up my finances, right? Really tuning into the energy of the long haul for Saturn, right? Because Saturn's also retrograde right now. It's right next to Neptune and Aries. So Aries is about taking action. It's the first sign of the zodiac. It wants to be first. It wants to take initiation. It's a cardinal fire. So it's initiating new projects, but it's probably because it's this retrograde and it's trining this Mercury retrograde in Leo right now. It's going back to possibly energies that are creations that you had in the past. And I'm thinking of two of the cycle. I have to look up the cycles of when Mercury was in Leo the last time. I haven't done the research on that yet, but this was coming in now. This is more of a channeled transmission because, again, I'm directly feeling the energy, looking at my own life and how these retrograde patterns are emerging through me and what I'm witnessing out into the world stage. And so, I've been helping friends and family. Just a quick story with an elderly couple who's needing support with their health issues, right? So I'm having to go and drive and do these things, work with, hospitals and organizations, healthcare systems. And I'm starting to see just going into these facilities how disconnected and how there's a lot of dissonance within the healthcare industry specifically. Now, it makes sense right now, too, looking at the astrology because Mars is in Virgo right now, and Mars wants action. It wants to make sure things are accurate and perfect, right? In Virgo is all about systems. And so I'm really starting to see how the systems, especially within our healthcare industry, are really needing some restructuring, right? Revamping, reorganization, because there's so much dissonance as things are starting to fall away. Pluto and, of course, Aquarius is about dissolution of what? Big group organizations, structures, governing systems, because, Pluto rules big governments, big organizations, just like Capricorn, and Pluto had been in Capricorn, since 208. So we were really seeing since 2008 a dissolution of these governing systems, and now with Pluto and Uranus, it's wanting new structures, new ways of seeing um, how we do our societies, right? So one of the big factors and the big organizations that I'm really seeing that needs this restructuring, this reinventiveness, this new way of seeing health and wellness is in the healthcare industry. And this is just direct experience, right? So I'm so grateful that I understand astrology or understand astrology and the energies because, there was so much back and forth going back. I'd have to, take paperwork to one organization. They're like, oh no, it doesn't have the exact verbiage written on there. We can't do this particular procedure because it has to be exactly stated this way. So then I'd go back to the other organization in the medical field and I said, hey, for them to do this test, it needs it to say this exact thing. And then it was going back and forth and it just wasn't connecting. For whatever reason, the beings in charge, the people who are running our healthcare system, just could not get the correct verbiage. And it was, and then when they finally got the correct verbiage, they had the wrong fax number, right? So it was almost like I was watching this comedy, very mercurial, because Mercury tends to be a trickster. And it was really affording me the opportunity to stay in my heart during this process, understanding that we are in this retrograde cycle, right? So knowing astrology really does give you grace, especially when you're working with real time scenarios and situations in your life. And it's a choice point, right? We can look at life as happening for us or against us, right? A lot of times where we're still in this maturation of life as happening to me, right? It tends to be more of a younger perspective. I think of very much Aries, right? It's me, myself, I. There's really no periphery outside the bigger field of energy, because when you're a kid, it's all about you, right? Are your needs met? If you're hungry, you cry. If you're thirsty, you ask your parents for help, and you require and look outside of yourself for support because you're in this child state, right? So, but with Saturn getting ready to conjunct Neptune exact next year in February, and we're starting to see this kind of dance, especially since we're retrograde right now, we're starting to get an inkling of what this really looks like. It really is about stepping into another level of maturity, right? The next octave of Aries. It's asking us to sort of grow up and to take responsibility for how we think, what we're projecting, our will, our perspectives, right? And so this is a time while this retrograde cycle is happening, especially with Mercury and Saturn and Neptune. And there's time periods too that you can kind of gauge where these windows of opportunity to go in and restructure your own life and allow yourself to experience more grace, understanding that even when things are on pause or not moving forward in the way your will thinks it should, right? Which is very much a disagreeable aspect of Leo, because we always look at the polarity or the agreeable or disagreeable aspects of each sign, each planet, each aspect of how they're connecting, because again we're in this enhanced polarity state, Uranus and Gemini, and we're really seeing how water can either be really, really hot or really, really cold, different poles of how water operates, but it's still water, right? So we're really starting to deep dive into the gnosis of how energy works, really getting into the crux of Uranus and Gemini. And again, it's going to be transiting this system, this way of thinking for the next 7 years, which it will also be going retrograde, Uranus and Gemini, going back to Taurus for a little bit and then moving fully direct. Every planets have the appearance of going retrograde, even though no planet really does go retrograde. It's just the appearance or the illusion that it's going retrograde. Like think of like two trains passing each other really fast. When you look over, it seems like the train's going backwards, but both trains are going forwards. And that's how these planetary energies are being perceived right now, at least from my perspective. So, the grace that astrology has given me during this retrograde period is really not to take things personally, to understand that there's recalibrations happening within all of our systems. Again, systems is about Virgo. We've got Mars in Virgo right now. So the action that we want to take is kind of being hiccuped by the way we're thinking about the actions, because Mercury is retrograde. So it's making us go inward and really reevaluate, if what am I thinking about? What am I creating, Leo? Is it for the highest and best? Is it mostly for myself that I'm creating, or is it for the other? Or can it be both? Can I find this middle point? Think of like the Vesica Pisces of like I think it's called uh, eat eat Ikigai Ikigai. Anyway, it's what you're good at, right, and what your passion is, and then what society needs, and then you overlay it together, and you meet that middle point, and that's where you decide how you want to create or how you want to show up in the world, right? Your purpose. And so it's I can see it spelled in my head, but I can't pronounce it right now. Again, the Mercury, it's impeding the language, but it's Ikaigi. Anyway, it's a Japanese term that really kind of points you to what can you create, what can you do that will, first of all, feed and fuel your passion. What are you passionate about? And then what does society need? And how can you serve society based on what you're passionate about and how you want to give and be of service, right? So this might be the reevaluation time of, well, what am I good at? What do I love to do? I think of this saying that when you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life. I really think that was quoted by a Leo, because Leos love to play. They love to be seen. They love to be on stage, right? But during this retrograde, it's about going inwards and being the star of your own show, right? And what really drives you? What is your passion? And how can you share that passion and that life force energy, like the sun, because it's ruled by the sun? How can you shine your light in the world? But that's what this retrograde period is really affording all of us, is the question, what do I need to redo, restructure, perhaps for the the long haul because it's trining the Saturn energy, and Saturn likes to do things for longevity. And with Neptune, it's about our spirituality. So when you can incorporate your practices, your creations, and give it that spiritual nuance especially since we have the North Node in Pisces right now, which is what we've come to learn to be our best, most highest, spiritually, vibrationally balanced selves in our creative life force energy and give to the other by being our authentic self. And I love looking at the language, right? The etymology. If you look at the word authentic, right, it also has the same beginning as authority or authorship, right? So it all has to do with the inner structures of our own inner authority and our own inner authenticity, which tends to be the highest vibration. Now, science is starting to show us that that's just one of the highest vibrational frequencies you can tap into is your authentic nature. But this is what this inward journey through Leo retrograde is affording us, is what really is our authentic nature without trying to control, without trying to dominate, right? Because again, these can be the disagreeable aspects of Leo, because every sign and every planet, every cosmological form has an agreeable or a disagreeable aspect. So, in order to find balance and harmony within you, you've got to be able to look objectively at both of these aspects within yourself. So, for me, just in retrospect, during this retrograde season, experiencing these miscommunications, especially what's going on with the healthcare system, you know, where things need to be restructured and reorganized because there's so many holes and loopholes within this particular, from my experience, just what I'm witnessing right now, that our health industry specifically needs to be restructured because there's so much miscommunication, and the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing half the time, right? Because again, there's been a lot of I would say micromanagement within the way our governing systems have been operating up until now. So this is really from what I'm seeing, an opportunity for us to really regrid and restructure our healthcare system specifically, because that's what I'm just being exposed to right now in my own life. I'm just pulling from my own gnosis right now and what I'm experiencing real time. So it's giving me patience. It's also showing me where I want to show up in the world. And right now, because I'm working with elderly people who need what I call an advocate for them, who can navigate these I would say technological systems, because a lot of times, especially when you're working with healthcare or any governing systems, you need to have some sort of technological understanding to navigate, because a lot of these governing systems are using technology. So I'm also thinking too, elderly is also Saturn, right? So especially the real elderly, if you're getting into like the 80s, high 80s, 90-year-olds who are almost like children again, this is also Saturn and Aries, that don't understand technology as much, right? And so they have a hard time understanding how to navigate these systems, which is creating imbalance and disruption with our elderly community and frustration, because they don't know how to get the health care that they need, because they don't understand how to navigate these current systems. So I'm being called right now, just in this now time moment, to be an advocate for the elderly, for at least the people that I'm working with right now, to really go in and have the conversation, right? To be able to use the technology in a way that they need, so they can get the systems in place that they need to help them manage and to thrive in these end of life matters as they're starting to go through these transformative energies within their bodies. Because, we start, supposedly right now, the story is that we start aging, right? That our systems start changing. And so this is the invitation also too for those that are being called to really be an advocate for some form of subset of beings, right? Whether it's children or the elderly, or working with, being in healthcare, whatever you're called for right now. Because again, this is the collective service to self, service to others. How can you be of service to the other and still shine your light and be in your authentic, creative life force energy and standing in your power, right? So I will say that during this time period, noticing that, having kindness and having patience with the beings that I'm working with on the healthcare system, realizing it's not their fault, it's just the system. And the system obviously needs some work, it needs some help. And so anyway, I can, really manage my mind and my thoughts and what how I speak to people, right? So I can help my friends who are older get the support they need, right? It costs nothing to be kind, truly. And when you feel frustration, because it can be very frustrating, I mean, I will say, going through the system back and forth, there was a lot of running around. It was hot out. I'm so grateful I had enough wherewithal to bring magnesium with me, so that because I understand that there was a lot of electrical currents going on, and because of the retrograde, there have to be probably me being patient with the process, right? So I'm again just so grateful for this system of astrology that can give some understanding as to these currents of energy, so you won't take it personally when things are not going your way, or you feel out of control, or you feel like things are just, instead of just making a blanket statement like the system sucks and people are stupid and nobody knows what they're doing and I mean, you can do that. I mean, it's free will. But does that make you the best version of yourself? Does that really help the situation? Does it help the other person? Right? It just kind of creates this weird dissonant energy for all of us. And we're all feeling that frustration. So, how do you manage your frustration? How do you manage when things don't go your way and your will is not being done, right? At your time level when you think is the right time. Again, this is a maturation process, it's learning grace. And you do that from from an inside out job. First of all, have grace for yourself. Don't take things so personally. Even when you're getting all flared up and getting all angry with yourself, just try to find the humor in it, because we all are in this human folly, this human game of where we're playing these the illusion of separation. We're playing with these images of ourselves, these characters that we've created as the other, but they're still all you, right? So it's the more that you can love yourself during this process and this journey, the easier I feel that we can navigate these transits, especially the retrogrades. So I'm going to screen share a little bit and take a look at what we're sensing here with the retrograde, and then I'm going to share. Here we go, the screen. So I've got it set here on the ascendant for Aries, and you can see this is today's energy, July 29th, 2025. And again, we're still in this retrograde cycle. So if you're looking at this particular wheel, every letter that's red is retrograde. So you can see that Mercury right now in Leo is retrograde at 10 degrees. And you can see right here it's trining Saturn and Neptune, and Aries also retrograde. And it looks like we also have Eris, the goddess of discord, in retrograde, right? So this retrograde is happening until August 11th. So we're going to go ahead and move the wheel up until August 11th and see where it goes. It ends up going, starting its beginning cycle, so it stops to go direct on August 11th. But there's still also a window period of where it has to go back, where it crossed over before, crossing over before it went retrograde. So it's like again, it takes a while to kind of restart itself, if you will. And this window period is going to be happening until August 25th. So again, it's going to be stopping its retrograde point on 4 degrees, 15 minutes. And we can see that it's still trining this Saturn and Neptune. Again, by this time period, if you can focus and harness in on this retrograde of like, what are you really creating for the long term? Again, Saturn likes long-term structures, and Neptune likes spirituality. It's connected to oneness. So anything that you can restructure for the long term and then involve your spiritual nature with it and how you want to be of service is really going to be paramount right now, because we still also have, Jupiter at that point is going to be at 13 degrees. Jupiter is expansion in Cancer. It's about family, home, nurturance. And you can see that it's also going to be trining the North Node in Pisces, which is what we've come to learn. And Pisces is ruled by Neptune, which is also our spiritual nature. So again, we're being asked to really come from our hearts and maybe reorganize, rethink about, and really get into what are we passionate about. Because when we're going to move, when Mercury starts moving forward again, and we're starting to build momentum to want to co-create. Again, the retro is about going in, but then you're going to want to project after this time period up until now, I would say till August 25th, what it is. There might be new projections. Again, new ways of new groups and organizations that you're working with, because again, there's that opposition energy. Pluto's going to be at 2 degrees still retrograde until the end of the year. And so the opposition energy is Mercury's like, do I really, again, have I been working for the correct groups, organizations? Do I really love what I do? Is there maybe a new group of beings that you want to work with? Like, say, for example, you're a teacher and you've been working with teenagers, or I would say, high schoolers, and all of a sudden you're like, you know what? I really want to work with young children. I want to stay in the industry, but I really want to work with kindergartners, right? Because you just want to go back more into the heart of the child. That's just an example that came in of how perhaps this retrograde is making you rethink how you want to be of service, how you want to share your gifts, how you want to share your creativity. And then by then period, you're going to see Mars is going to be entering into Libra, and we're going to be doing a whole nother conversation about Mars ingressing into Libra, because Mars is not really comfortable in Libra. Again, Mars is ruled by Aries, which is the opposite of Libra. So I believe it's called at its detriment when it's in Libra. So how is that going to be affecting the collective? Well, we can look again further on a different conversation for that. That'd be another podcast. And again, you can check out Lives in Astrology for more of these cosmic conversations. And a lot of this is channeled information. So this is just the channel that wanted to come through today. And while we're in this cosmic conversation, I was also, again, still practicing the North Node in Pisces, learning the spiritual aspect and learning to share artistic values that correspond to the energies. I love pulling divination or tarot cards for these expressions because it's fun for me. And what wanted to come through, especially Uranus and Gemini, was the Sacred Rebels Oracle deck by Alana Fairchild. And again, it's just, really activating the sacred rebel within us, helping us tap into our own inner authority as we're still in this retrograde, to help us really go in and do the internal restructuring, regridding, revamping of what it is we really want to create. And so this is going to be a clearing out process, especially with Virgo still in or Mars still in Virgo right now. The more you can clean out your system, like clean out your closets, you can make space for, more cool, awesome clothing, right? But you got to make space for it. It's the same thing with your creations. You might have beautiful creative life force energies and communities you want to work with, but you got to clear out the old clutter. So this might mean disengaging with some community groups that no longer vibrational match, right? And it's all going to depend on where this aspect is happening in your birth chart. So if you want to check out and reach out to Lives in Astrology, I'd love to give you a free copy of your birth chart. And if you want to book a chart session, we can go even further deeper into where these transits are happening for you, to see where these retrogrades are really affecting and maybe where these new creative energies want to come through you. So again, you can reach out to me for that. But for now, let's go ahead and pull a card. Let's just take a breath. I'm going to put the card just by my heart and just ask whoever's watching this now or anytime moment, whenever you come across this, for this retrograde period of Mercury retrograde in Leo, also, aspecting this Neptune and Saturn retrograde. What do we need to know as a collective to help us redo, restructure, reorganize how we want to be of service, how we want to share our gifts, and what we need to know in this now moment to help us have a more harmonious, balanced, and vibrationally harmonic experience of this reality, of this timeline. So where do we want to go? Just one card, please. Source for anybody watching this. Let's see here. Okay, here we go. Restore and Replenish, number 38. And, it's interesting as we're looking at the retrogrades here, and I'm hoping that's okay, YouTube or whomever that we can watch this. It's just somebody that's curled up and looks like they're curled up in the earth. And restore and replenish that's what retrogrades are also about. It's a time for us to really rest, restore, rejuvenate, replenish. Again, all the re's, right, in the retro is about how we connect to our energy fields. And really the restore and replenish is the retrograde. So it's an internal job. So you might be feeling, especially since we're in August, and I'm thinking of the dog days of summer, right? Especially here in the Western Hemisphere, it's very hot. And so a lot of times we want to take naps, we want to be indoors, in the nice cool AC because it can be very hot outside. So I'm thinking also too of that rest and restore and replenish, of allowing yourself to really, really rest deeper than you've ever rested before. Because sometimes in stillness is when the most work happens, is when we're in this period of, I would call it silent grace, right? Where we're just allowing ourselves to be without having to do really anything. And I know for me, I need like especially the summer months when it's a rainy day, I look forward to those rainy days because it gives me almost like an excuse not to do anything, because my mind, I'm still recovering hyper masculine and hyper what is it, like patriarchal, where I feel like I have to be doing all the time. So if it's really sunny outside and I feel like I'm wasting a day because there's stuff to do, right? When the sun shine, get the hay. And it's like all these programs that are running in my psyche that keeps me in this loop of like over having to do all the time. And then what I've been finding is that I'll run myself rampant and then I'll put myself in sickness because I'm so tired that I have to stop and rest, right? Because I've made myself, either I get a migraine or I just, I throw myself out of balance because of the way I'm thinking. So again, this is an opportunity for me to rethink about even my own, how I expend my energy, how I expend my Mars energy. And it's not always about doing. It is about being. That's why we call ourselves human beings, right? It's being the energy. It's being in that state of grace without always having to do. So this is the invitation for this particular card to restore and replenish during this retrograde. Allow yourself to like curl up. I'm even seeing, I just heard curl up with a good book or a good movie. And you don't have to wait for a rainy day to do that. You can do it on a sunny day. It's okay. You're not going to miss anything, right? But the body does tend to work more efficiently when it's been properly hydrated, rested, restored, and energized. That you can really be your best version self. So that's the energy and the transmission that wanted to come through today on this energy of the retrograde in Leo. And again, we still have the sun in Leo right now. We're going to have this approaching full moon coming up, I believe, I think it's on the 9th. I'll have to look up and do some more research, but we'll do another transmission on that for this upcoming full moon in Aquarius, which is going to be very potent as well, because there's going to be a lot being revealed, especially since it's going to be within the sign of Pluto, and Pluto's in Aquarius right now. So there's going to be a lot of transformations that are going to be catalyzed because what's being illuminated in the collective psyche right now, especially has to do with big business and governing systems. So be on the lookout for that transmission. And again, thank you so much for joining this channel and this connection. And if you liked any of the content, I would invite you to please subscribe and share and send this to friends and family who also might enjoy this metaphysical, intuitive, quantum approach to astrology. Because if you follow Lives in Astrology, we come from the maxim that all is self, that nothing that's happening outside of you is not directly internally happening somewhere within you. So we definitely come from that periphery. And again, if you liked any of this, it's free for you to like and subscribe. You don't have to subscribe, but to like it, it's free for you. And again, if you like and if you value any of this content, then subscribing will keep you up to date to when these lives are posted. So all right. Thank you so much for connecting to the content of the channel, to myself. I send you so much love during this very potent and retrospective period, and invite you just to, again, repair, restore, rejuvenate, relax your system. It's not always about doing. We are human beings. And during this time period, the more you can just be with yourself, with your creative life force energy, then you can have more energy to be inspired to create what wants to come through you in the next cycle of energy. So, all right, guys, see you on the next transmission. So much love to you. Okay, bye.